It's close, but not quite. Hi everyone, this is R.A. Sweeney. Welcome to Wordplay in the Word. Today I want to talk about a really cool way that the Bible uses synonyms to help tell the narrative story, which it just really cool ways. But the example I'm going to use is my absolute favorite example of this, and it's right there at the beginning of the Bible. So we see in chapter 2 of Genesis that God creates the garden within the land of Eden. And Eden, when you look it up, I've mentioned before, like you can't just say like this word means this, but it carries ideas of different things. And so in English, the ideas that Eden carries would be like delight and pleasure and fulfillment and like the happiness that goes along with all of those sorts of things. So it's like this joy of being where you're supposed to be and doing what you're supposed to do and having what you're supposed to have and all of that sort of just like fulfilled pleasure, happy sort of thing. And so there's the land of Eden, and there's a garden in it, and then I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but in the very next chapter, Adam and Eve say, hey, we don't want to do this, we're out. Paraphrasing, obviously it's a lot more complicated than that, but they reject the Garden of Eden. And then in chapter 4, you see their two sons are at the door of Eden offering sacrifices, trying to fix what their parents broke, seemingly. But they're offering sacrifices at a door, seems like the door back to Eden. And, you know, Cain murders his brother because he throws his tantrum that God did not appreciate his offering as much as he appreciated Abel's, and so he kills him. And God says, you know, here's your punishment, and Cain's like, oh, nope, that's too much for me, like, I'm gonna die. And so he laments his condition, and it's awesome to see God's like, okay, like, I will take care of you. You reached out in your distress, I'll help. And he says, I will give you a mark of protection so that nobody's gonna wanna mess with you. Like my protection will be your protection. And then the next thing you see is that Cain goes and he builds it's specifically a walled city. This isn't just like, you know, a couple houses. It's like a city with like a wall and defenses and stuff. He builds a fortress, essentially. And it doesn't say fortress, it says a walled city, but like, you get the idea of like, he's bringing together people and, you know, like he's building this own like community to defend himself. Like, I'm going to make my own protection, which seems to imply that he rejected the protection from God. He's saying, I don't want your mark, I'm going to build my own city, which is a great wordplay there because the words for the mark of protection and the city, they look and sound very similar. But he makes his city named Dedicated, and in the city of Dedicated, he's king, and his lineage is kings. And a few generations in, we've got a guy named Lamech, which looks like the word king, but all jumbled up. So he's like a twisted mutation of a king. And we're told about his 4 kids. So he's got 3 sons, and they're doing exactly what humanity is supposed to be doing. You look at what they're doing, and it's like, whoa. Good for you guys. Like, they're advancing technology, which probably is a good thing. Cain means like craftsman, and so, he didn't work out so well. So maybe that one's a problem, but like, we're developing technology. Technology is making more life in abundance like we were supposed to do in the Garden of Eden. So that seems good. One of them is animal husbandry. Like, he's figuring out like how to shepherd and like breed animals and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's life in abundance. That's a good thing. And then the third is musician. Like he advances the art of music. You're like, that's like, you look at all 3 of those things and you're like, those are Eden things. Humans were supposed to be doing those things. Out here in exile in the city, Cain's family, they seem to be doing it right, but there's these little hints that like, well, maybe not, but like they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And then it's like separated into a whole nother verse and everything. It talks about, he also has a daughter named Naamah. And that is a word for like pleasure and delight and stuff like that, but it's not in the same way that Eden is. It's a more just like, the pleasure you'd get from like eating something that tastes good, or somebody like saying thanks for something you did for them. It's more of just like I think of like what we think of with like our like social media culture, like getting likes on your Facebook page or your Instagram post or whatever, like those sort of like dopamine type, like it's not really fulfilling, but it just gives you that little bit of joy. And so it's a synonym, but it's like a diminished version and not the same. Like, so we've got something like Eden. It means basically the same thing, but it's not Eden. And I think that's the idea that we're supposed to see, this juxtaposition of there's the ideal, what things were supposed to be, and then there's the cheap knockoff. And you'd never get it if you don't really pay attention to like what you don't translate either of the words Eden or Na'ama into English. Like it just stays Eden and Na'ama. But if you translate it and see like, oh, these are synonyms, so it's almost the same, but not quite the same, then you start to see how the story's trying to shape it as the city of Cain is meant to be this cheap knockoff Eden. It's a rival Eden that's not as good. It's doing a lot of the same things, but it's like a corrupted, twisted, all of those sorts of things. So it starts with the rejection of God. Then you've got this mutated, twisted king, and now we're doing a cheap knockoff of what Eden was supposed to be. And all that comes together to paint a picture of what am I supposed to think of this city. And so I really like the way that the synonyms there are used to help move the story forward and communicate meaning. And unfortunately, we lose a lot of that in English because you can't translate every bit of meaning. But I feel like it is really cool in how that plays out. So we'll look at some more examples too as we dive into things of how synonyms and sound alikes and things like that help develop the story. But for now, that's what I wanted to talk about in Wordplay in the Word. I hope it's a blessing. Thanks, everyone.